We're not wizards, or hell, maybe we are. Either way, you and I are both shining stars. We are gonna go somewhere. Maybe long, maybe we will drive a car. On this episode, there's Richard and me. And as usual, we're gonna speak. I've not made the rest of the lyrics up, but this is a song. Though it is, I'd admit, rather weak. And yeah, so there you go.
That'll do. Hello and welcome to We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for July. Live and direct.
Not the entirety of July.
Not all of July, just some of July. Just a little bit of July, almost at the beginning. Not the beginning of the July, not at the end of July, just in the middle of the July. Look around the eyes, not the middle of the eyes. It's kind of sunny outside. It's a bit overcast outside. I should potentially be painting a fence, but I've decided instead that rather have a cedar red on my fence outside, I'm gonna have a Bez red in my ears. Instead.
Because who cares about Mr. Miyagi? Mr. Miyagi does not get you to paint their fence.
I am training to do my bestest karate, which means I need to go outside, and I've got a lovely floor to sand, and I've got a fence to paint, and then I've got a 1950s Cadillac to drive down the street like the kind of the person that I am. Joining me, as I said, they need no introduction. They are the force of nature, the wonder of the sea and the air. They are that person that is at probably the larger wavelength of the electromagnetic spectrum in glorious red. I give you the wonderful, the delightful Bez. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Richard. Thank you for having me on.
It's Sunday, I think.
It is Sunday. At the time of us recording, peeking behind the curtains, it is Sunday, and we're recording because I asked Richard, well, I mean, you don't even do the whole shebang of going into and searching for other podcasts now. I mean, by bit, you're dropping all the facades. Like, later on, you've not even been telling people you're going to edit things that you don't edit even more.
No.
You're becoming more and more honest. You've let slip that you are actually a wizard, and then soon people are going to know that you're a bit of a dick. And anyway,
I am becoming my final form.
So,
what are we here to talk about, Bess? What are we here to talk about?
It's because of BGDevCon.
BGDevCon.
So,
what's the BG stand for?
Board games.
All right, okay. I thought it was maybe Bez games.
No, it's not about me. It's about everyone.
It's always about you. Everything is always about you. Every time I go anywhere, it's always about you. I can't walk down the high street.
In a weird way, Bez is so arrogant. Everything is always about they are. But actually, you're doing it in a really nice way. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I guess.
Kind of. We'll get away with it. I'll edit it so it sounds great. BG. So let's start off with the. Let's be serious for a second, because it is, it is a serious place and a serious time. Where did you get the idea for BGDevCon? Because I know that you've regularly kind of take part in kind of playtesting and groups and stuff like that. So, what made you first decide to do something like BGDevCon?
So, yeah, it's basically all stemmed from Playtest UK, because, I came to London, I keep saying 6 years ago, now it's maybe 7 years. 2012, 7 years, let's say, 6.5 years. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is, I came to London, there was one playtest group that was meeting once a month, which is hardly anything compared to nowadays, when it's literally 2, 10, 11 a month, just in London. And back then, this one time a month was enough to say, hey, I'm going to carry on going. I'm going to get my game tested with people like Brett Gilbert, like Muffy Dunstan, people that I respect, but also people that I've not heard of. Everyone's got a valid thing to say about your game. And the most important thing is that you are allowed to bring that game without imposing on others. that you're not going to a board game group and saying, hey, please, will you look at my game? It's a case of you coming, and as long as you're willing to spend the time looking at other people's games, yes, we will spend the time looking at your game, because it's all about reciprocation and work in kind. It's essentially peer review is what it is. I mean, you come along to a Friday daytime, and if you're just coming for the one session, then you better not be bringing your game, frankly, because that's really just taking time away from everyone else. You're not contributing anything. But if you can only come to like one session at a time, well, come a couple of times, then you've kind of helped yourself a couple of times. Then like the third time you come, or if you're there for the full day, which is like 3 slots, then like on the third slots, you get a couple of other people to look at your thing, and then it's perfectly balanced. Do you know what I mean? It's not like everything has to be so calculated, but there does have to be some exchange, even though it's never a monetary exchange. It is an exchange of time and energy, and I was going to say skills, but again, the skill level shouldn't really come into it. I mean,
ideas sometimes I think is a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and efforts. And so this is brilliant. And then we'd started off the playtests on the Friday, and there was a lot of good playtesting going on, but we didn't maybe have enough discussions, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so that was what got me thinking, what if people got together, like all the game developers, all the designers, like even maybe some publishing people, and we got together, but we didn't playtest. So playtesting is actually not allowed. That's the number 1 rule.
All right. Just so you could focus on... Is the playtesting when a group of folk get together who are developers, is that an easy... Not an easy cop-out, but is it an easiest thing to do? Because I'm taking that actually sitting down and organising kind of actual topics to discuss and workshops and things like that, that takes an awful lot of work. I mean, it's easy for me to say, like, here's my current prototype of Whether the Weather Gods in front of you, and you go, yeah, well, let's play it a couple of times and then let's make some notes. But it's a different thing to say, okay, let's do an hour and a half session on the name of your game or the artwork of your game, or deciding on inserts and stuff like that.
Even more than that, it's not about anyone's particular game. That's the key point, that it's for people to come along. And so, I'm not saying, Ben Neumann, wonderful person in America, like, I don't need to get into Ben Neumann every time. It's still unpublished, but they have made some amazing games. They were a big part of the reason that In a Bind Now Yogi exists. Anyway, so shouts out to them. But they were making the point that, when you say don't do this, don't do that, it can sound a bit confrontational. So what it is about, rather than focus on any one single game, you're not even saying, hey, what's this art like? It's trying to exchange ideas to make every game that we make in future better, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So it's like you're going to Tabletop Scotland, and I don't know if you are the host or if you're just one of the panelists on that Kickstarter thing.
I'm the host.
Okay, God save. Well, so you say.
What?
I am sorry. That is.
You ain't seen me host in public. I mean, these people, they have no idea what they're letting themselves in for.
I am actually a bit sad that I'm not going to be around, because I should be at my table at Tabletop Scotland. So I'm not going to come over to see you for that lunch break, but I will definitely look at it on the video.
I am going to, therefore, completely rearrange the timing of it so that you can actually come along, or I will ask somebody else to look after your table, or shut it.
In all
for an
seriousness,
hour.
I will look forward to watching it, because the Unlucky Frog, Josh, Ben, and Charlotte, I don't know which one of them it was, but responded that they are indeed recording it, which is excellent. But
then I'm definitely doing it naked.
So with BGDevCon,
throwing your thoughts there. Where's your train of thought?
BGDevCon, it's like the same, where if you're doing a
naked.
talk about Kickstarter, that's helping everyone who's going to go on Kickstarter. And at the start of Friday, we kind of normally try to get together for 10 o'clock, and then we only start playing like 5 minutes before 11. And so we've got a long time to have a chat, which if there's a newcomer, it'll be like, oh, good to meet you. How did you get into board game design, and trying to make them feel welcome and everything. And because, David Brain and I are now friends, it'll be like, okay, how's your week going? Has there been anything notable? And maybe I'll have some idea that maybe I will post something about one of my games. But going to BGDevCon isn't about, hey, here's an aspect of my game, can other people help me? It's, hey, here's, firstly, we have micro talks, which is everyone standing up for like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, giving an example of where they're from, what they're passionate about, and basically then starting some ideas churning. Like someone one year talked about how dance and game rules are very similar, and like all the parallels that you can draw between them. And it's just a new way to think about board game design, because every new lens is like a new instrument that you can take. And then you've got people who are doing longer talks. Yes, it might be about a post-mortem of something that's been published, but that's kind of for other people to learn. So the idea is that when you're talking, you're doing it with the consideration of other people and being like, okay, what are other people learning from this? And when you're sitting down, you are listening, but you're really gaining something of value. I mean, like, you go to UK Games Expo and they have all the brilliant talks. Like, the first year I went in 2011, I listened to Lewis Pulsifer, who made Britannia, and I listened to some person from, who I don't know the name of, about miniature gaming and a few other board game designers, because this was something that I was really interested about. And I was keen to go to every single seminar I could and learn from them. And that was fantastic. So I've got stuff that I can teach someone further down the road from me. I've even got some stuff that I can teach Matthew Dunstan, because even though Matthew is like further ahead from if we were all walking one path, the truth is we don't all walk the exact same path. We do all walk slightly similar but slightly different, like maybe adjacent paths. It's more like we're walking through a forest where there maybe are no clear paths, if you know what I mean. And maybe some of us want to get to one side, and then some of us are saying, hey, actually, you don't even need to get to that other side. Like, you don't even need to mass producing your game and selling 100,000 copies or 1 million copies might not be the only goal worth going for. And so, hey, let's come and explore this little rocky pool in the middle of the forest, and pointing out to people like, hey, this is a new way to think about game design. And so it's kind of from the focus of let's get together and help support each other and make each other better, so that when you leave, you will be a better designer, you will be a more inspired designer, and you will be more ready to make games. And even if you never want to make a game, I hope that it will be interesting to you to kind of hear other people doing it. That's...
Yeah. I mean, I think we're getting to that stage where the sharing of knowledge is starting to happen, and I think it's because the Kickstarter side of things is maturing, and I think people they're always quite kind of protective of their ideas and their IP, and there's always a worry about somebody coming along and stealing your idea and kind of creating the game. But I think those who are sensible are realizing that it's not just taking it doesn't take 6 months to kind of develop a game. I mean, that's almost impossible. And I think sometimes people struggle with the same thing, but they are hesitant to go ahead and ask for help.
What do you mean it's impossible to develop a game in 6 months? Are you saying that that's way too short?
I think sometimes it can be paranoia that somebody who's been working on their game for like years and years and years are sometimes afraid to kind of share all the information about their game, because sometimes they might be worried that for certain types of games that somebody else is just going to come along and develop the same game in a very, very short period of time, I guess, rather than give a period of time.
There are definitely like examples of things having been stolen, and as you get closer to the toy industry, that is more and more rampant. Like if you look at all the speak out stuff, like all the games where people put mouth guards into their mouths and try to say something while other people don't quite understand them, there are so many knockoffs of that. And like if you look at Jungle Speed, which is like very firmly in the game industry, but it has, I'm assuming, sold millions at this point. There are knockoffs of Jungle Speed out there that offer nothing except it's, hey, here we've done different pictures. And there's obviously a question of how closely is it okay to be. And there have been like things like the example of Bang, the dice game, where they copied what they called the look and feel of it, rather than even just the mechanics. So for the reason of copying the look and feel, they did actually have a court situation where they were told to stop selling what they were selling. So I'm not going to say to anyone, don't worry, your game will never be stolen, but it is unlikely. And if your game is supremely simple, basically, if you have to be honest to some degree, like if I'm making a war game, that will never be copied. And if I were, there's just not enough money in there. If you're making something that's supremely simple, like Bananagrams or Jungle Speed, that is the kind of thing that might be copied. And so it's kind of which industry are you going into? And Kickstarter, I hate to say to people, this will never get stolen. And Adam Porter made the point that Adam's really trying to work in a more toy-based industry where people could copy it with a bit less difficulty.
Yeah. I guess my point is that if you're starting at stage 10 and somebody's starting at stage 1 and they're trying to do exactly the same thing, they're always going to potentially be a little bit behind you and not necessarily have the kind of the message, but all I'm just saying is like sharing best practice on how you would approach certain ways. I think I see on a lot of the board game dev groups, you get the same question coming up again and again about, say, like barcodes, or the same question coming up again about logistics providers, or I see those kind of getting repeated questions kind of like again and again. And sometimes Facebook is fine, but there's not everybody that's always active on all the Facebook groups. Not everybody follows kind of social media. So I think that if people were aware of an event where they could actually sit down and share kind of best practice, and let's face it, it happens in other industries as well, in terms of people getting together and sharing kind of best practice, whether it's like social services or manufacturing, marketing. I mean, there are conferences that people go to, and there's always kind of speakers and something like that, where we'll gather together and they'll discuss kind of key topics, and people will share best practice and kind of take notes, even though they might potentially be in the same space or even competitors to each other. So I think this is something that's required. It's not new, but I think it's something that obviously works in other industries, and I welcome that you are trying to bring something like this into the kind of the tabletop kind of space, because I think it's potentially long overdue.
Yeah, I mean, you've got obviously GDC, Game Developers Conference, for like video games, and there's even a bit of tabletop games, like they share lots of their videos, and that's fantastic. And people come along to it, and I've seen videos from Mark Rosewater, who's head designer of Magic the Gathering, doing 20 lessons in 20 years, and like it's kind of a clickbait title, but it is genuinely a brilliant talk, one of the best ways to spend an hour if you are into game design. And there's people doing postmortems. That's fantastic. This is something that most people aren't going to be able to get to. And I started BGDevCon, like going back to it, it was like I had the idea. Andy Angu, who runs the Enfield playtest at their Adults Learning Academy, when it's shut on Mondays sometimes, said, hey, I'm planning to do a Mega Civilization game. And, Andy's trying to search for 18 people made me think, hey, wait a minute, Andy. I've got this idea for a BG DevCon. What do you think? And Andy was like, yeah, why not? And we've got this distribution of this division of labor where basically Andy does the hosting and gets the food, and that's Andy's responsibility. And I'm kind of doing a bit more of the social media side, and I try to work out the speakers and stuff. And then last year, especially, there was Matthew Dunstan. I mean, like, doing a lot of help with pitching in ideas and organising things. And ultimately, it is all thanks to the speakers, like Mike Nudd, who's spoken every year about something that they've been working on. And it's something that's finished because I try to take it out. I try to remove the ego, if you know what I mean. Because let's say I was right now talking about Kitty Cataclysm and doing a post-mortem on that. Or not even that, as a bigger example, let's say I was doing a discussion on Plus, my next game. Then I would be kind of going into almost promotional mode, thinking, okay, I'm promoting this, I'm getting people excited for it. And to a lesser degree, like also Kitty Cataclysm, whereas let's say now I was doing a post-mortem of Yogi / In a Bind. I mean, without wanting to sound too, like, I guess this is kind of bragging, but the success of Yogi is not going to be affected by me talking about it in front of 30, 40, however many people at a conference. Do you know what I mean?
That's what you call a case. Is what you call a case study.
Exactly. And
you're past the kind of the promotion message, and you're then into what you would call the kind of the lessons learned kind of message, where it doesn't, you might get a couple of people potentially checking out the game, but there's a chance that everybody that's going to be present in that room is already aware of that product or of that service, and are therefore they're more interested in how, the certain things that you did, as opposed to actually learning about the product itself. Yeah,
exactly. Like how it was done, why you did those things that you would do differently, things you do again. I mean, that's what it basically comes down to. And this is the kind of things it's good to ask ourselves, and this is the kind of thing that it's good to share with others, so that they can learn from you and they can jumpstart. Because, I mean, you mentioned Kickstarter, and you've got Jamie Stegmaier, who's, they've left the the Kickstarter industry, like they're still in the board game industry, but they're still looking on from the horizon, and they wrote a hell of a lot about it. And, James Maffei, rest in peace, was doing really short, sweet articles about, hey, here's a big list of all the distributors. Hey, here's how you do an RFQ. What is an RFQ? It's a request for a quote. Here's how you kind of send something off like that to a manufacturer without sounding like a pillock. And this is brilliant stuff that people are sharing. And the reason that I believe I was a semi-decent designer to start off with is because I had a head start, because I'd read so much stuff by Mark Rosewater and the developers of Magic the Gathering, where they do go into, these are our practices, and not everything can be translated, but some of it can. And, Jeff Engelstein in Ludology. And I guess that's part of it. There is the learning from people, and there's also, to a smaller degree, well, depending on where you are, there's also the networking and meeting of people. Because, let's be honest, we're not generally making board games expecting to be millionaires. So there are people who are doing it because maybe they are already financially wealthy, and they are they've made money from maybe something like Google or Facebook or whatever. And, not being like Mark Zuckerberg, but even if you're working for these companies, maybe you make a good amount of money, or if you're working in the financial sector. And I do know people who are legitimately hey, I've got enough money to live comfortably. I'm doing board game design not because I expect to earn anything, but just because it's what gives me intellectual satisfaction. Conversely, you've got people like me where I am doing it as my main source of income. And it's true that realistically, I might never make a game that sells as well as Yogi will do, but I can look to kind of think about other goals, like can I make games that will help the world, and also the more important thing is because we aren't doing it primarily for money, and yes, we want to make money, yes, we want to make great games, yes, we want to make games that are facilitating fun or valuable experiences, but it's also, hey, we can have fun along the way, and it's nice to meet people, it's nice to be validated and say, hey, we are on the same journey as you, and we will support you if we can. And to hear a talk by someone and then say, hey, wow, I really respect that person. Like at UK Games Expo, I want to say Alex Yeager, like I saw them doing a talk, and then I was like, you know what, that wee thing, I disagreed with that. And then, but it was a really good talk, and I have and then they were like, oh yeah, that's, I think it was James Wallace that kind of went afterwards and said I disagreed with something, but Alex Yeager, it was more like, oh, actually, that thing that you said about that you just brushed over that entire topic, what exactly did you mean? And in kind of talking through them, that feels very different than just learning, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself successful? I mean, as an aside, I mean, considering, that In a Bind is, Yogi is available. Your In a Bind started off as kind of like a very simple game that obviously the premise was so simple, so easy to grasp that it kind of transcended what you would say the normal that you would expect from a kind of a board game, card game, and then kind of went into kind of like the mass market. Because one of the things I think that people forget about you is that you are out there in retail. I mean, people can buy Yogi. It's going through its second kind of stage. I mean, are you willing to take that kind of plaudit as a successful designer?
So it's really weird. At UK Games Expo, I gave a talk, BGDev 10 or Board Game Design 101, that's what I called it. Because, why have random acronyms unless you're trying to make it into a hashtag? Which, by the way, BGDevCon is both the name of the thing and also the hashtag, because Dave Cousin... But, yeah, so I was giving that talk, and it kind of... Each time I give that talk, because I gave a similar talk at Tabletop Scotland, and this time because of literally having my laptop and all my files stolen, I had to rewrite everything. But it does make me aware that, yes, I have travelled a lot further than a lot of people, because I left my last full-time employment that was unrelated to board games in 2014, when I was basically working in retail, and my goals are not very high financially, but I do still feel like I don't quite have the stability to call myself financially successful, if you know what I mean. Like, we'll see how it pans out. My ambition right now is to basically earn enough of Yogi to survive, which I am immensely privileged. I would far rather, if Wibble++ had been my first thing, I don't know necessarily if I would have been able to carry on making games, because it would have sold not quite as well. I wouldn't have gotten the, it's a medium. I got a cash injection when I licensed In a Bind, and, it's a lot more than you would get for a typical hobby game, for example, because it is a kind of game which, it sounds like I'm bragging every time I talk about it, but it is a game that does have the potential to sell millions. and I think it's almost, I believe that give it to not a few more years, and it might do, and like we'll see how it carries on with the like the first year sales were really good like when it came up, and now it's kind of um into a number that I'd love to be able to say, but I've been told that I'm not meant to kind of say the exact number, and but I'm immensely privileged, and it does basically, if I did absolutely nothing, of out of the money that I got in royalties, I'm going to say when I was working in retail, I was earning, I don't know, between 10 and 11 grand a year.
Yeah.
It wasn't very much. Like, I mean, honestly, supermarkets, and even if they're supposedly classy places like Whole Foods Market, they don't tend to pay you very much. Now, I have not earned quite as much this year yet, but it's not that far off. And 95% of that is from my one royalty check, which is for 6 months. And so I've reached a point where if I did absolutely nothing else, I could probably just about manage to make ends meet. And yeah, if it carries on like this, I could pay for rent and maybe go out to a dance class like every like few days, and maybe have a restaurant meal like once every couple of weeks, something like that. It's not like I can go out whenever I want or anything, but it lets me live, if you know what I mean. So it would help me get away from I see the end very close in sight where I'm no longer needing benefits, because full disclosure, right now I am still earning little enough that I do need a little amount of benefits, but I'm sorry that it all comes down to money, but that is a thing that if I want to continue doing this, I do need money. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And yes, I like it's the whole like, and thank you very much for like chipping in like a quid on the Patreon that like I do like, and like just like the money there. It's not like even about the quid. Do you know what I mean? It's purely about kind of the validation and the token of appreciation, which kind of means something, because I mean, like, saying to, even if someone were to, when I said, okay, click on your favorite picture, if I got enough involvement that 100 people were clicking on that, but no one actually wanted to, you know, give me a quid, they would be like, well, at least I'm actually doing something that this many people are looking at. That's still pretty damn awesome. And but you can have money for validation, or you can have money for, you know, what it is, which is a method of sustenance. But validation can obviously come from other methods, through like people saying to you, hey, I really love that game, and people are telling me that they enjoyed my games. And I've gotten, like, in the last week actually, I'm not saying it's more than I can count on one hand, but it's like a good 3 or 4 people in the last week saying, hey, I really enjoyed this game, and like maybe tagging me in a post or in a picture or whatever, and saying, hey, we really enjoyed Phrasal. Oh, hey, we came up with these cool phrases, or hey, I've really enjoyed Innerbind Junior, even though it's like long out of print. Any chance that you could help me with getting a copy, or like, is there any shop that might still stock it? And that's all, like, even if they weren't asking for another copy, just, and some, like on my Kickstarter, people think, hey, I got this, I'm really enjoying that. For me, that is the ultimate validation. Not the money, but kind of people saying, I enjoyed this, because that is the ultimate thing. But in order to survive, in order to live my life, because I am not just a robot who can keep inventing ideas, I do need to get paid. And so it is a case of, I think that I am on the cusp of what I would consider financial success, in that I am just about, hopefully within the next year or so, to say, you know what, I don't even need benefits. Not that it's very much, and it kind of seems a bit weird how, like, in a month where I'm basically making a loss. I'm still only getting £200 housing benefit. But I'm on the cusp of getting there, and I'm honestly in a place where I can say, you know what, Wibble plus plus, I don't need that to make money, and I can say, you know what, I can reinvest a tiny bit of money from Yogi. Like, I shouldn't do too much because otherwise I'd be at risk of leaving myself short and actually struggling to pay the rent, which, like right now after UK Games Expo, I have had to borrow a wee bit of other people, which, you know, I'm privileged again that I do have some people that I can borrow money off, but it's never the best thing to have to do. And I feel kind of awkward ranting about money for so long, but as a measure, I'm on the verge of financial success. You asked if I'm successful as a designer. Have I been able to make people laugh? Have I been able to get people to enjoy themselves? Yes, and like Yogi is now, I think, in like 15 languages. I've honestly lost count because like it came out in Dutch like just last week, and it's like they're doing another Scandinavian version on the horizon, and it's kind of crazy to me. And like reaching that many people, I would love to kind of reach people in other ways, like reaching people with the conversation, which is going to be retitled, which I've done with Laura Wood, which is about kind of exploring human relationships. And one of my grand visions is to make an app, like an actual mobile phone app, where it's going to motivate you to kind of go out and literally touch parts of the world. Like it's going to be called mini missions to minimize misery and madness. And so you'd maybe say, okay, today your free missions, okay, you kind of say, how are you feeling? Are you feeling miserable? Are you feeling like a bit sad? Are you feeling okay, happy, or ecstatic? And if you're feeling miserable, it'll give you really easy missions. Like one of them might be to touch a tree. One of them might be to make a cup of tea. One of them might be to brush your teeth. And once you've done that, it's like, well done. Now enjoy the rest of your day. Come back tomorrow morning for some new missions. And kind of something to kind of help people stave off depression and give people a sense of accomplishment, not just in a virtual world where some number is kind of growing exponentially, like, pardon my language, you're going to have to put an explicit rating on this. Some like bullshit clicker heroes, whatever game where it is basically tapping into that Skinner box, and you do have the sense of, well, is this actually morally responsible? Because it could be too addictive, but on the other hand, maybe it's the only thing that person finds any joy from. But the ideal thing is to get something with that same sense of accomplishment that gets them interacting with the world, like coming from it, not from a point of view of how can we get people hooked and keep them in the game, but really focusing them on the world and facilitating good interactions and healthy bodies and spirits. And that would be my goal. And as a designer, I feel like I am such a newbie, do you know what I mean? Because I've done 3 things, like Wibble++, obviously that's a lot of games, but broadly speaking, I've got the inner bind stuff, like with the Junior, with the expansions, with Yogi Guru. I've got the Wibble++ stuff with like all the games for that, and I've got the Kitty Cataclysm. That's, I don't know why I forgot that for a moment, but like I've not got I've done a bit of development, like Dino World. I actually finally saw Caesar again, like last Wednesday, got my free copy, might take it to some family thing. Like I have helped out on games like that, like Chocolate Factory, like those are the main ones, and done a little bit of work, but I've never made a big Euro game myself. I've still only made a quite small variety of games. I've never made a game that I try to affect social change with. I've never made a game where people are eating things. There is so much more in the world. And I feel like, actually, I was thinking about this the other day. I feel I am on the cusp, in terms of my experience, I think I'm now lower intermediate. And I feel like a really strong sense of achievement being able to say, you know what, yeah, I'm no longer a beginner, but I'm not like an expert. I'm maybe not quite intermediate, but I'm lower intermediate. Like if we had to go like beginner, lower intermediate, upper intermediate, like expert, I would say, yeah, I'm firmly on the second rung. So I am feeling, quite happy with where I am. So
I think you're underselling yourself, but that's just my kind of that's kind of my kind of opinion on it. But there you go. In terms of the BGDevCon, you're right. Are you right in going to Kickstarter?
Yeah,
to this to kind of cover some of the costs. Yeah.
Honestly, it was never about the costs. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but it's about, can we get enough people? And that's basically it.
Right.
So, first time we did it, we ran it, and it was great, and we had like 30-something people, and we had a great day. Second time we did it in April. Now, I didn't realise that Easter's actually a really big thing in England. I mean, you're like me, you're like I used to be, based up in Scotland. And, I mean, Easter's not really a big thing in Scotland. I don't know how it is in the USA. But in England, places properly closed down. I'm not even joking. Like, classes, like when I came to London, and then I was having this kind of afternoon class, and I was like, wait a minute, you say you're closed on Easter? And they were like, yeah, you should expect that. Well, in Scotland, the school wouldn't like close just because it's Easter. I mean, am I wrong here?
No, I think it depends if they decide it's a public holiday. I know that normally I don't normally take Easter days off. I know that you're right, down in England they're always...
Yeah, like they've got the whole Sunday trading thing. I mean, England's really religious compared to Scotland. I never actually realised until, I'd been here for a few months. And anyway, the point is, so many people were going on holidays with their family, and it happened, but it was a bit underattended. And then BGDevCon 3 was meant to then happen that same August, and it kind of carried on, and I did what I'd always done, which was, okay, if you want a ticket, unlike the normal Playtest UK sessions, we do have to charge some money, because Andy's using the venue, but Andy doesn't charge anything for that. The more important thing that is an actual cost is, let's set aside all the hours that we spend doing all this stuff, but Andy does that. We do actually put on a breakfast and put on a lunch and get snacks for everyone. And we do actually have stationery costs. Like, we do get a lot of, and yeah, it kind of comes to 12 quid per person. And I wanted to say, well, when we did it off Kickstarter, it was basically 10 quid. And so Kickstarter takes just under 10%. So at 12 quid, we're basically getting just above £10. We're getting a bit less than £11. 11-ish, whatever. The point is that framework for Kickstarter facilitating us to have a deadline for people to pay money in by last year meant that I was able to not cancel it at the last minute, which is what happens with the original BGDevCon 3. So we had, I think, I don't know why, maybe we didn't do enough PR, maybe we didn't do enough shouting about it, maybe people were like, oh, is there enough people? Oh, maybe there's not enough people. And it's that kind of thing where no one wants to be like the third or fifth person because it's perceived as an unsuccessful event, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And so people don't want to start buying tickets. Now, one solution might be to buy tickets on a hidden platform so no one can see how successful it is, and then you're like, okay, it's got 20 people, great, that's a good amount, it's definitely going ahead. But at a certain point you need to say, okay, there's not enough people, it's not going to go ahead. With this one, I've had it on a Facebook event for quite a while. I've been inviting people, I've been telling people about it. I should do a little bit more promotion, but the Facebook, honestly, I mean, the Kickstarter, honestly, is a way to get people to rally around, because if there's less than 20 people, it's not worth us doing. Because I know that sounds like it's kind of, yeah, theoretically you could have a good event, like even if it was like 10 people, but would it really have the same impact and emotional impact as BGDevCon? No, it wouldn't really. Whereas like once you've got 20 people, okay, you can have some really great talks and conversations. Once it's like that number, you can like start splitting and having like, okay, 30 people, we can have speed designing in one room, which is what we did last year, whilst other people are having like a round table and getting stuff off their chest. Like we had basically a ranting session where people were ranting about annoying Kickstarter customers, and it was all completely off the record, but just people having, it was almost like Alcoholics Anonymous, do you know what I mean? Sitting around the chairs, and that was one of the things we did. Most of it, so there's like, feel like I should get into what we do. Like we have the micro talks, like I said, the longer talks. We've got scheduled chit chat breaks, and I think that's really important that you have a long talk, and then rather than having questions after it, like let's do a couple of longer talks and then have a scheduled chit chat break where you can approach that person personally, because so often questions are better served as a small conversation between maybe a group of 3 or 4 people rather than having to use like the entire audience of 30 or whatever. And you've got like we have a tradition of redistribution of physical objects where, let's be honest, some people have an excess of games, and I certainly do, like as I'm leaving the country in a couple of years, and let's bring some stuff, and everyone takes away some stuff home. Like if you don't have, like everyone brings some stuff and everyone takes away like 3 things, do you know what I mean? Just let's redistribute some stuff, and that could be like a designer maybe even bringing some copies of a thing they made, or maybe a book you read that you've finished it, but you think that someone else will get value out of it. And it's a nice way to kind of build rapport between people. And it's all about that connections, that socializing, but also having an audience so you can speak, and also about listening and learning. And yeah, that is BGDevCon. I've not said when it is or where it is.
No, you haven't. Let them guess.
Oh,
I'll tell you what. Tweet at us when you think it is and where you think it is, and what we'll do is we'll tell you how warm or cold you are. I'm personally guessing it's going to be round about August.
Yeah.
I'm guessing again. It's probably potentially, looking at my calendar. Is it going to be a weekend?
It is.
I reckon it's going to be probably round about the 17th of August.
You're spot on, Richard.
I reckon it's going to start round about, doors are going to be opening round about, well, 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then they're going to continue as long as they need to over the 17th. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, exactly. So, hopefully...
I didn't know that. I'd like to point out that I had no knowledge of this prior. I've just completely guessed. You know, I am a magician. There you go. That's me using magic, all right? That's my wizard powers live on the podcast. Bez, can you confirm for the record that you'd not actually ever divulged to me the date, time?
I mean, it was available online, and that is something I have been shouting about. And so it is on a Facebook event. If you look on Facebook for BGDev...
Thanks for ruining it. It was going to be one of these amazing reveal things. It's not a bear. There you go. Anyway.
Bear, gorillas, development, constrictors.
Just ruined it. Anyway.
And
how much are you deciding the tickets are going to be? Can I guess that? 15 quid?
It's a wee bit less.
12.50?
It's 12.
12, alright, that's bad. That's not bad at all. That's pretty good.
And I mean, if you're coming from out of town, I mean, we are aware that there is a cost involved. If you're on a really tight budget, then get in touch and might be able to help. Last year, I put Katie Bain up in my house, and so, you know, it just meant that she doesn't have to find somewhere else to sleep or whatever. And yeah, I can potentially put up 2 people here. And if you're coming from out of town, it's up in Enfield, like it's in EN3 4DZ, which is like quite far north London. So the best way to get here is to go to King's Cross, and then it'll take you an additional hour, which is why we have the doors opening at 9:30, and
Right.
we do have like a sort of icebreaker puzzle that we've done every year. This time it'll be kind of halfway between a puzzle and a game-like activity, but it's basically just, at the start people can chat, but especially if they don't know each other, there's a puzzle that basically involves you asking people have told me their favourite game ahead of time and least favourites, and then there's clues, and then you go up to people and you start chatting. It's about facilitating discussion and getting people to interact. And then 11 o'clock is really when it all kicks off. That's when we have the welcome speeches and the micro talks. But I do always encourage people to get there as early as they can, because, that's, if you're a bit anxious, we have time to tour you around the building and say, okay, these are all your rooms that you're going to be in, and this is where the loo is, and this is where everything will be happening. And if you've never been before, I am going to introduce you to some of the people around the UK, because I now at this point know a good portion of the people who are making games in the UK, I would say. And if you're, not anxious, or you're able to do your own introductions, then even better. You can just go in there and, start talking to some random people and seeing what they've got to share with you. And, because it's not the best things that you learn aren't just in, conferences or learning things. It's like in the unrecorded episode of War Not Wizards today that we did, that will never be aired.
Don't talk about that recorded episode. I shared my deepest, darkest magical secrets on that episode.
In all seriousness, though, that's
my self-destruct episode where I just go on and say, do you know what? You're all a bunch of sad nerds. I don't even play board games. I like action films with Michael Caine and going down the pub. That's what I like. You're all just rubbish. You've got no friends, none of you. I hate you all. I'm gone.
Screw you. I'm getting out of here.
Exactly. Get to the chopper. So that's that.
The best discussions aren't like just listening to someone. It's when you're having a conversation, not necessarily over alcohol, because like for the record, I think there's coffee. And like obviously there's sugar, which you could consider a drug, but basically alcohol and drugs are like just not allowed.
They're just not allowed.
Yeah, it is child friendly. So last year we actually had a wee, I think like 4-year-old, and I don't know if you know Flo. Flo.
I don't.
And basically this person came with their wee girl, and because they had to take care of them. And that's perfectly fine, because whilst we are, and Andy Angu even says, okay, in the main room, try and avoid swearing if you can, but in the other rooms, do whatever the hell you want. And it is child friendly. I mean, you could bring a 12-year-old. I would bring my 9-year-old niece and totally think that's fine, and maybe my 9-year-old niece might even be inspired to make games. If you've never made a game, then hopefully you might be inspired, you might learn something, or you might be just like, oh, that's really interesting, it's given me a deeper appreciation of games, but I'm still never going to make a game, but I had a good day. But the best conversations, the best times of learning, Matt Fantastic has said are in the pub once people are a bit drunk. I would say it's not to do with inebriation, but it's to do with that sense of familiarity and that sense of comfort. And it's when people have built up a rapport over the course of the day, by the end, when we have those round table discussions, when we are all venting and we all feel able to just say whatever the fuck we want, It is really good, and it's really powerful, and it's really good to learn, okay, this is a real thing that's happened to these people, and this is what it's going to be like.
I can't believe you fucking swore on this show. That's...
Ben Maddox would...
Don't bring Ben Maddox into this. Don't bring him in. Don't even bring that name in here. Don't you even dare. There's things going on between me and Ben I can't even discuss. Don't you bring him in on this. Don't even.
Oh, are you going on the podcast soon? 5 games for Doomsday.
Oh, these 5 games? No way, I'm not going on that.
Why not?
He wouldn't have... Because he wouldn't have me.
He would.
No, he
Surely.
wouldn't.
I mean,
No, he wouldn't.
He's had...
The first question would be, right, and because this is coming up again and again and again, the first question would be, right, why on certain numbers of your shows since, like, on a show in 20...
Oh, have you been asking the zombie thing?
Why were you asking the zombie question, kind of thing? You know, why were you asking the zombie question? Because I think it was back in 2017 I kind of first asked it to somebody. Yeah. So I think there would be that awkward kind of, you know, thing. And then, I'm joking, Ben's great. I've been on the Guild.
You know, the BBC, I don't think they can complain too much.
Desert Hill, why are you bringing this into stealing things?
Oh.
What are you doing?
Okay.
Why have you brought that conversation right to this?
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Tell me where people can find out information about the BGDevCon. What are you doing? Anyway, where can we find information about this? I might have to cut this.
Okay, so,
I won't know.
I was hoping that at this point I would say, okay, the Kickstarter's live, and go to this web address which will redirect to your search for BGDevCon. There isn't a website. Probably there should be, to be honest, given, like, maybe after this year we'll see if someone wants to make a website. Because it's that kind of thing where it is all community focused. Anyway, so the ways that you can find out about it are go on to Facebook and search BGDevCon, all one word. That's B for Bravo, G for Games, Dev for Development, Con for Conference. And then if you look...
I don't think you needed to explain that.
Yeah, you think everyone understands that the BG is for board games.
I just thought it was for Bez something or other beginning with G. And
Bez Giant.
Figure out.
Bez Gold.
I don't know.
Bez Gold. Yeah, it's all about
Bez Gopher.
The Bez Gold deviations contingency.
Don't. That's just nonsense. Right, so if we go on Facebook, we'll find it there, yeah?
Yeah, and also, if you are not on Facebook, you can, if you are on Twitter, you can ask me about it. I am Stuff by Bez on Twitter.
Stuff by Bez.
Yep. And if you search for the hashtag BGDevCon, then you will find me talking about it earlier this year, but you'll also find people sharing photos and stuff from last year, and also 2017 or 2016, which is really nice that people have done that. And I think even like Rob Harper did a couple of write-ups, Adam in Wales did a video, and actually Matt from Creaking Shelves, Matt from Creaking Shelves did a wee reviews if you want to. But if you want to buy a ticket, there's 2 ways that this is going to go, because at the time of recording, I think I was telling you beforehand, I'm having trouble getting my Kickstarter accepted because of a whole passport issue, which is really weird. It might be because my scan wasn't good enough or whatever, they just haven't told me, because Kickstarter is a bit opaque and it's a bit annoying sometimes. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it's annoying. And I guess that's like most for me technical stuff. But either it will go on to Kickstarter, and then I'll run a quick Kickstarter that finishes on the 1st of August, and assuming that there's 20 people that sign up to it, and on the Facebook I think there's already basically that number saying they'll definitely go, and another like 40 something saying they'll probably go. it will run. It'll be good. We'll have stuff happening. We'll have food. You'll learn things. If I cannot get the Kickstarter to work, then I will possibly do it via my own website. But it's just that Facebook, it's a nice kind of platform for everyone to chat about it on. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, if you want to search my on Kickstarter, my thing is ByBez, so it's just BYBEZ, because I kind of made a Kickstarter tag thing back before I called myself Stuff by Bez. And so they've just, if you kind of make a thing, then you've got to sort of, leave it at that. They don't allow you to change it unless there's like a really, really good reason. And so that is me on Kickstarter. You can search for it and you'll probably find the new ones. BGDevCon, find it. It is happening on 17th of August. If you have any problems, also email me, stuffbybez@gmail.com. Sort you out. If you want to come and you want to speak, that will be brilliant. If you want to come and you want to not speak, that will be fine. You're very welcome. If you want to come and you're short of money and you want to stay over one night or kind of talk to me about how I can help you get there potentially, then speak to me.
Do that. Do all of that. And what we'll do is we'll put it into the show notes so that we've got links to show. That's an awful lot of information, so I might just summarise it though, basically, to be honest. If you want to keep an eye, don't start interrupting me because you put me off my thing the last time when you interrupted me.
You were going to say that's if you wanted to find us.
I wasn't. No, maybe I was going to say something else. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, see.
Oh,
then go to the Google, search for We're Not Wizards, and you'll find us in all the different places. Worn Out Faces, bright and early for the daily races. On Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and our website and our blog and you can find us in all the podcast catchers with things with pod and the word cast in them, and even Spotify that doesn't have
either of those
cast in them. Either anywhere, just search for us. We're just everywhere. Some kind of terrible fad that's going about and everybody's praying, when is this gonna end? Potentially soon.
What?
And if you've liked what you've listened to, tell somebody else about it, because we only get bigger and better by people telling us about it because we're egotistical. The other thing you can do is you can go to Apple Podcasts and you can give us a subscription, which is always cool. You can drop us a rating or a review. If you drop us a rating or a review, don't give us 10 stars because it makes us big-headed, and don't give us 1 star because every time you do that, a really cute animal in a forest that you've never been to dies. Give us something in the middle, like a 5. Because it's average. We're just a little bit average, but the person who's not been average is rather wonderful. They're rather fantastic. They're very successful. Aww. Bez. Say bye-bye, Bez.
Bye-bye, Bez.
And it's a goodbye from me. Because I'm not going to do the Are You a Wizard thing, because we're both wizards. So there you go. And do some magic.
A wizard is never late.
And it's a wizard is never late.
What film is that from?
What do you mean, what film is it from?
Isn't it them using a thing, or...
It's the Lord of the Rings.
Is
it's
it?
Gandalf that says it.
Oh.
What?
I couldn't remember. Just because it's a big movie, I don't have to know every single line of the Lord of the Rings.
Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, make something awful, and it's a bye-bye from me, and until the next time, I can't believe you don't know that's from Lord of the Rings!
Bye-bye!
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.